What if you could enter his mind so deeply that he thinks of a future with you without even understanding why? What if your presence, your energy, your essence naturally made him picture you as the woman he wants to wake up beside every morning? The truth is, you can shape his inner world long before he ever says the words out loud. There is a beautiful secret about the human mind. It is always creating images, stories, and inner movies about the people who affect us emotionally. Every time someone leaves an impression on your heart, your mind forms a picture around them. And when a woman learns how to influence that inner picture, she becomes unforgettable. She becomes the woman he can't stop imagining a life with. She becomes the woman whose voice he remembers, whose energy he feels, and whose presence lingers even in silence. This is how a man begins to imagine marriage. Not through pressure, not through chasing, not through demands, but through the way your energy silently speaks to him. To make him imagine marriage with you every single day, you must understand one thing. Men commit emotionally long before they commit verbally. A man's heart awakens quietly. It happens in moments you don't see, when he remembers your smile, when he hears your laugh in his mind, when he feels calmer after talking to you, when he notices that life feels lighter with you in it. These small memories become emotional seeds, and the more consistently you bring a peaceful, confident, magnetic energy into his life, the more those seeds grow into visions of a shared future. Most women try to convince a man with words, expectations, or effort. But the truth is, the most powerful influence you have is your presence. It is the silent language you carry, the calmness you radiate, the emotional safety you offer, the feminine depth that cannot be forced or faked. When you stand in your true worth, he feels it. When you move with grace, he notices. When you stop trying to prove yourself, he starts imagining you in his life in ways you never had to ask for. A man imagines marriage with the woman who makes him feel emotionally secure, not the woman who demands love, but the woman who embodies love. Men are drawn to emotional certainty. When you are stable within yourself, you give him the space to envision a future without fear. You become the anchor that steadies his world. He thinks of you when he's overwhelmed, because your energy reminds him of peace. He imagines you beside him in difficult moments, because your presence feels grounding. He starts seeing you not just as a romantic possibility, but as a life partner. Someone who adds clarity instead of confusion, comfort instead of chaos, inspiration instead of pressure. Another powerful way to make him imagine marriage with you is by showing him the version of yourself who is already aligned with the life you want. This doesn't mean acting perfect, it means acting whole. When you embody the qualities of a woman who is already loved, already chosen, already valued, he begins to see you through the lens of commitment. He imagines you as a wife because you carry yourself like someone who knows her worth. Your energy communicates that you are not waiting for him to complete you. You are simply inviting him into a life that is already overflowing with purpose and joy. To make him imagine marriage every single day, you must also speak the emotional language he understands. Men don't fall in love through pressure, they fall in love through impact. Instead of trying to convince him with logical reasons, you show him how love with you feels. He imagines coming home to you because your presence feels like rest. He imagines building a future with you because your energy feels inspiring. He imagines waking up to you because your spirit brings him peace. You don't force him to see the vision. You let him feel it. And what a man feels repeatedly, he eventually desires permanently. A man's imagination is guided by the emotional signature you leave behind. When you remain feminine, present, warm, and grounded, he cannot help but think about you. When you stop trying to win him and start expressing your authentic self, you become irresistible. Men are deeply drawn to women who live from their truth, not from their insecurities. When he sees you embracing your own growth, nurturing your purpose, and honoring your inner world, he imagines you walking alongside him as an equal partner, not someone who follows him, but someone who grows with him. Another essential element is emotional detachment, not from him, but from the outcome. When you detach from needing him to choose you, you instantly become more magnetic. This is because emotional freedom feels luxurious. It tells him, without saying a word, that you are a woman who chooses love but is not dependent on it. That energy is rare, and men cherish it. When he senses that you are not clinging, not chasing, not forcing, his mind becomes curious, his heart becomes open, and his imagination begins to fill the space with visions of holding you close, protecting you, building a life with you. He imagines marriage with you when you allow love to flow naturally, when you don't rush the process, when you don't panic in silence, when you trust the connection instead of doubting it, when you relax into your feminine energy. He feels safe enough to lean in. A man's spirit responds to the woman who trusts herself, trusts the connection, and trusts the path unfolding between them. To make him imagine marriage every day, become the version of yourself who is unforgettable. Not because you try, but because you embody qualities that elevate his spirit. Show him what emotional maturity looks like by expressing yourself with honesty instead of drama. Show him what loyalty looks like not through sacrifice, but through consistency. Show him what love looks like through presence, patience, warmth, and depth. These qualities do not just attract a man, they stay with him. They echo in his thoughts. They replay in his mind. They fill his imagination with images of you in his future. A man imagines a lifetime with the woman who helps him feel like the best version of himself. When you inspire him, support his goals, celebrate his growth, and remain steady in your own purpose, he begins to see you as a long-term partner. Not because you ask him to commit, but because you awaken parts of him that only a true partner can awaken. He imagines a future with you, because you bring out the strength in him, the softness in him, the clarity in him. To deepen this connection, you must also step into emotional intentionality. The energy you give him should be gentle yet powerful. Your words should feel like encouragement. Your silence should feel peaceful, not punishing. Your presence should feel like a sanctuary. When you interact with him in ways that elevate his emotional state, he begins to imagine the joy, safety, and meaning that a life with you would bring. He imagines marriage because marriage with you feels like a blessing, not a burden. But perhaps the most profound way to make him imagine marriage every single day is this. Speak to his spirit, not to his insecurities. Many women unintentionally trigger a man's fears. Fear of losing freedom, fear of failing, fear of disappointing. But a woman who speaks to his spirit, his potential, his dreams, his purpose, creates a bond that feels sacred. She becomes the woman he envisions building a family with, because she sees not just who he is, but who he can become. And nothing draws a man closer than being genuinely seen. So if you want him to imagine marriage with you, don't focus on forcing the future. Focus on embodying the energy that naturally pulls him toward that vision. Be the peace he seeks when life becomes heavy. Be the softness that reminds him love is safe. Be the strength that inspires him to rise. Be the warmth that opens his heart. Be the woman who knows her worth so deeply that he can't help but imagine choosing her forever. Because when a man meets a woman whose presence feels like home, his mind imagines her every morning, his heart imagines her every night, and his soul imagines her for the rest of his life. And that is how you make him imagine marriage with you. Not by convincing, but by becoming unforgettable. A man imagines marriage with the woman whose energy brings him peace, not pressure, because peace is the emotion that makes him feel safe enough to open his heart. When your presence calms his spirit, instead of overwhelming it, he begins to associate you with stability and emotional rest. This peace becomes a sanctuary he subconsciously returns to again and again. He thinks of you not just during good moments, but during stressful ones, because your energy feels like relief. The absence of pressure allows him to picture you beside him without fear or hesitation. He imagines the way your softness balances his challenges. He imagines a home filled with your warmth. Peace becomes the foundation of the inner movie he plays about you. And the more he feels this comfort, the more naturally he envisions a lifetime with you. He commits emotionally to the woman who awakens calmness, trust, and comfort in his heart. Because these feelings build the emotional safety men rarely talk about but deeply crave. When you make him feel understood without judgment, his guard lowers. When you show him patience rather than reaction, his heart expands. When your energy is consistent, he begins to trust the connection instead of questioning it. This trust becomes the glue that ties his imagination to you. He starts to see you as someone who would stand by him in real life, not just in passing moments. Your emotional presence becomes a soothing voice inside him, and through that comfort, he pictures a life where you are part of every chapter, not just a single scene. When you embody self-worth and feminine confidence, he naturally pictures you in his future, because true confidence is magnetic. It signals that you know your value and that you don't rely on him to define it. This independence awakens admiration in his heart. He sees you as a woman who brings depth rather than demand. Your confidence makes you stand out in his mind long after conversations end. It makes him imagine introducing you to his family, walking with you into important moments, and choosing you every day, because you carry yourself like someone who deserves to be chosen. He imagines a future with you because your energy reflects a woman who would enhance his life, not complicate it. Your emotional stability makes him see you as a life partner, not just a romantic moment, because stability is the rare quality men value more deeply than physical attraction. When you respond with clarity instead of chaos, he feels safe. When you communicate directly instead of emotionally attacking, he feels understood. When you stay grounded in situations that would shake others, he feels guided. This consistent emotional balance makes him imagine a lifetime with you, because he sees you as someone who can walk through challenges without breaking. Stability is what a man looks for when he thinks long-term. It tells him you are reliable, secure, and emotionally mature. And these qualities make marriage feel not only possible, but desirable. A man imagines marriage with a woman who inspires him, not the one who chases or doubts, because inspiration activates his higher self. When you live with purpose, passion, and self-respect, he feels motivated simply by watching you evolve. Your growth triggers his desire to grow alongside you. Your strength makes him want to lead better. Your energy makes him want to protect better. Inspiration pulls him toward you without needing effort or persuasion. He sees you not as an addition to his life, but as someone who elevates it. Chasing confuses him, but inspiration calls him. Doubt pushes him away, but inspiration draws him closer. And in that pull, he begins imagining a life where you both rise together. When you detach from needing the outcome, you become more magnetic and unforgettable to him, because emotional freedom is deeply attractive. It tells him you value the connection, but don't depend on it. This detachment gives him room to approach naturally instead of feeling pressured into decisions. Your relaxed energy makes him miss you in a healthy way. It makes him think about you because you are not trying to force his thoughts. He feels the difference between genuine desire and emotional grip. Detachment allows him to choose you freely, and freedom makes the choice more meaningful. This emotional space becomes the canvas on which he paints long-term images of you in his life. Your presence, warmth, and authenticity create inner images of a shared life in his mind, because authenticity speaks directly to a man's soul. When you show up as the real you, unfiltered, genuine, emotionally expressive, he feels a level of connection that's rare. Warmth softens his emotional layers. Your presence stays with him even when you're not around. The memories you create feel natural, unforced, and pure. He begins imagining simple moments, conversations at night, mornings together, laughter filling the room. These images root themselves in his subconscious, shaping how he sees you. Authenticity creates a bond that feels like destiny, not chance. And destiny is the energy that makes a man picture commitment. A man envisions a future with the woman who brings out his best self and feels like home, because home is not a place, it's a feeling. When he feels encouraged, respected, and uplifted around you, he sees you as someone who elevates his life. You awaken the version of him he's proud of. He wants to become that version permanently. You become the emotional space where he feels accepted, not judged, safe, not threatened, valued, not drained. This sense of home makes him imagine building a life with you, because home is where he wants to return, again and again. You become the woman he doesn't want to lose, the woman he can build with, the woman he can marry, and the woman he imagines beside him every single day.